And welcome to a Life Burst podcast. It's a Wixoss podcast called The Life Burst. I'm a master at these openings. Today we're going to do something a little bit interesting. We're going to do, I don't think anyone's done this yet, a set review. And these take forever, so I will divide them up into 6 different options here. I'm gonna do the PEICES and the assists and the Lrigs and the colorless cards all in one, and then I'm going to divide it up by each color. These take forever to do, so bear with me if my voice starts to go by the end of it. Let's explain what we're doing for this set. For this set, we're going to be doing, and you guys can see that I'm on the Wixoss EU website, so I can do the card database. We're going to be doing Ancient Surprise, Niji Sanji, and Interlude Diva. We're going to do them all at once, and then the next time around I'm going to do Glowing Diva, and I'm going to do all of the starters decks also. We are going to do a grading scale for this. The grading scale is going to be not as advanced as a lot of other card games grading scales, because we're not doing any limited formats with this. Realistically, we have to decide whether or not these cards should be in consideration for your deck building purposes whatsoever, and that includes the current teams that exist. You kind of have to consider them under the lens of their teams. And we're going to talk about whether or not they are playable, or whether they're kind of jank. You should recognize that a lot of the cards that get made in Wixoss are not very good. Some can show up as like a 1 of, 2 of. Otherwise, they are like staples. Like that is basically the power gap between things. Either they're staples or they're very much not staples. So as such, a grading scale for this is going to be as follows. Staples, these are going to be cards that you're going to be using all the time in your decks. We've got the playables, you might use it in your deck occasionally. And then we got the unplayables. And these are just basically going to be like, for whatever reason, they're not very good. Yeah, theoretically, you could maybe put some kind of, you can put it in your deck somehow, some way, but it's probably not going to be great there, or it might actively hinder things. Let's start off with the PEICES. I think that's, or not PEICES, the Lrigs. And then we'll move from there. So we'll sort it. Here we go. All right, we don't have a ton. They literally all fit in this small window in this beginning just for Lrigs, but we do get all of the Lrigs. And again, we're not going to grade how cool the art is on any of these levels prior to the main chunk of potatoes here we need, which is going to be the level 3s. I think At is the best Ancient Surprise center that you can have, period. I don't think Towel is very good, and I don't think Umir is good in the slightest. So let's go ahead and talk about why At is good. At is good because it has ignore the Enter Charge 2, Enter Charge 3, although that's cool because green sometimes wants to do big things. The ability to give your classes different power, or your Signy with different classes power, just basically a static power bump on the field, is going to turn on a lot of Power Matters cards, and those mainly exist in red and green, a little bit in blue, a little bit in white. You can't do white with this, but teams specifically, unless you break teams. But the real important part here is that you're giving green power boost. This will matter as sets go forward. At is not the strongest card in the meta by any means, but it is playable, and that's at least worth mentioning. The next one that is on here is Liz. I think Liz is bad. So Liz is going to get the grading of unplayable. The first thing that you should do if you get a Sandbaka deck is immediately take Liz out from being your center and start working with the different center. It's not good. Getting 1 Signy a plus 2,000 power until your opponent's next end phase, which means that it persists until their turn, is innately a more defensive ability than offensive ability. This game is more of an offensive game than a defensive game. The enter ability to let you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal any number of Signy among them, put them into your hand, is also fine. But there's so many ways to get card advantage in this game that you do not need this, especially because it's limited towards virtual. Virtual cards get worse and worse and worse and worse because we're on set like 8 in Japan, and there's no other virtual cards past 0, 0, excuse me, so there's just literally one set of virtual cards to choose from. It's not very good. It wasn't good then, it's not good now. But let's talk about Towel. Towel on Ancient Surprise, you're level 3 red with the grow cost of 2, even though it says glow, they fix that later down the line. It's got an team ability for Ancient Surprise to discard 2 red cards, draw 2 red cards. You can do it once a turn. Its enter ability is look at the top 3 cards of your library, reveal any number of red cards, add them to your hand, put the rest on the bottom. That's pretty good. That means draw 3 basically in a mono red deck, and that's where Towel shines. I think if there was combo in this this game, which there really isn't, Towel might be better because you might be able to search for your combo pieces. But as it stands, Harina does everything better in set 0-1, so Towel's time to shine has sadly gone away, at least until maybe her next reappearance later down the line. We'll talk about Umir. Umir is not good. You can build around it. It has the most powerful Umir. Let me just be clear here of what it does. Level 3, Ancient Surprise. Once a turn, you can move target Signy from your field to a different Signy zone. And you have the enter ability of literally erasing one of your opponent's Signy zones until end of turn. Grow cost, of course, 2. This is the most powerful removal that exists in the game. But that being said, it basically turns into a fancy remove 1 Signy from your opponent's game. And that's not very good. It's okay. I mean, I'd rather have removal than not removal. But the fact that it does that, and then it does Signy switching, which is not a very, very highly supported strat, it is not very good. I would look back into it again if there was a lot of Signy swapping suddenly support that exists. But as it stands right now, probably not very good. I would get the grade of trash it to me, garbage fire. Let's talk about Ange, level 3, grow cost 2. It's white. Team is Sandbaka. Its team action is once a turn you can give target virtual card on your field 4,000 till end of turn. And it has the enter ability to return target Signy on your opponent's field to its owner's hand, and you get to draw a card. I think Ange is good, actually. I'd say playable. I do not consider it a staple by any means, but playable is the true answer. When the set first came out, 0-0, Ange, Toko, and Ott were really the only playable, and Towel, were the only playable centers that you could run. I think Ange is good, and there's some virtual Signy that get a benefit of having a power boost, and you can't do it with Toko, but you can do it with Ange. Ange will lead you down a more good stuff deck where you're kind of just using removal for removal's sake, and you're focusing a bit more on white. And it's a good, it's not great, but it's a good center that you could build around. Moving right along, we've got Toko, level 3. It's a black Sandbaka team, grow cost 2. Your action is once per turn you can put a virtual card from your field to its trash, and then you can give the opponent's field, target Signy on your opponent's field gets negative 3,000 until end of turn. You sacrifice a virtual, you give something negative 3,000. Its enter ability, you can add up to 2 target virtual cards from your trash to your hand. Toko is good. Toko's actually very good. Here's the thing that makes Toko not great. Virtual. It's a virtual tribal. And like I said before, virtual only exists in this set. So you have what's only in this deck and nothing else. If there was more virtual support in the future, you might see Toko suddenly very playable again. As it stands, I think Toko is probably the strongest that we've read so far. it kind of has, it's rare in the fact that it has a playable deck that works with it. And that deck will always be playable in the format for a while. It won't be actively good, but it will be playable. So Toko gets the playable mark from me. I think you can run it. I think if there's future support for a virtual, she might turn into staple in the future. But right now, playable. And that goes over all of the centers. Let's talk about some assists, because I think you need to talk about assists when you talk about any any teams until we start breaking teams. But we'll talk about these assists, just literally how playable they are, so that way you guys can then make the decision as to whether your center can support these or whether you want to team break. And when you team break, you really should be focusing more on the assists. You got Towel Screech. It has a grow cost of 0. It's a level 1. It vanishes target Signy on your opponent's field with 8,000 or less, and you get to draw a card and then discard a card. It loots. I think this one's perfectly playable. I actually would mark it into more than playable. Let's mark it as staple. If you are in the market for let's mark it as playable. If you're in the market for a assist that does early game removal and lets you kind of filter, this is exactly what you're looking for. Grow cost 0. It's great. Let's look at some other towels that are also level 1 before I move fully on. Towel Ebon. It's a level 1. Grow cost is 0. When it enters, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Reveal up to 1 red, 1 blue, 1 green. Signy among them, add them to your hand, with the rest in the bottom on any order. This card is also playable. If you need, for some reason, to draw cards, and you are supporting a rainbow deck, this card's great. A draw 3, potentially, is utterly outstanding, but realistically, let's be real, it's going to draw you 2 cards more than it's going to draw you anything else. Usually you leave that for your blue slot to do that, or your white slot to do that, but if you are in a deck that doesn't have access to any of those and you have red, it's perfectly playable to do that kind of thing. I don't know why you wouldn't have access to that when it definitely says 1 blue Signy here, so you should have access to blue. I usually like my red stuff to be a little bit more aggressive. Going into, let's see, there's got to be one more towel I skipped, right? Oh, no, that's it. It's just 2 level 1s. I would lean more towards Towel Screech if I was going to pick a towel. Let's look at the level 2 towels. Towel Rainbow. If there was a red Signy on your field, target Signy your opponents. You can vanish target Signy your opponents on your opponent's field with 10,000 or less. If there's a blue, you get to draw 2 cards. If there's a green, you can enter charge 2, and the grow cost for this is 1. Also, very playable. Again, if you were focusing on like a rainbow deck, that is actually very good. It's pretty much anything that you want it to be. You can customize it. Realistically, again, you should be thinking, all right, well, I'm probably only going to have 2. And if you said that you were going to give me a grow cost of 1, and I could do a vanish enter charge, I could do a vanish draw 2, or I could do a draw 2 and enter charge, I'd be like, that's great. So it's great if you are running those colors and you're looking specifically to do a rainbow deck. Let's do Towel Bubbles. Grow cost of 2. It's a level 2, by the way. Vanish target Signy on your opponent's field with 12,000 or less, so it's basically vanish target Signy. And then you can pay 5, and you can vanish something 8,000 or less. This one is not good. When you're paying 2, especially in your assist zone to do 1 vanish, that's normal. That's the amount that should be. Paying 5 to vanish something that's probably a level 1 is not great. It's modular, so you don't have to do it, but there's better versions of towels, level 2s, that vanish more than that. We talked about this one, vanishing and giving you something else, for less of a grow cost, mind you. And then also there's going to be Towel Burst, which is vanish any number of target on your opponent's Signy, any number of Signy on your opponent's field with level less or equal to your opponent's center Lrig. Just to be clear here, that means you can basically vanish a level 3, you can vanish a level 2 and a level 1. If they have a field of level 1s, you can vanish all of them. It's got the attack phase timing, as does Bubbles, and I think the other one doesn't have attack phase timing, right? Yeah, it's just main phase. I should be talking about those 2. Bear with me, it's my first set review, guys. This one's great. Probably the best one out of the level 2s for Towel. It costs 4 to grow, which is a lot, but the effect is kind of worth it. 4 to vanish 2 is pretty on rate for your assists, and having the flexibility to vanish potentially 3 is better. Plus, you get the added bonus of it having attack phase timing. So that is genuinely pretty good. Let's talk about aughts next. Not aughts, excuse me, Umirs. Umir draw. Grow cost level 1, grow cost 0. Draw 2 cards. It is your baseline blue Sydney. Your baseline blue Lrig. This is realistically probably what you want from your level 1 Umir. I would always do Umir draw, probably. Over the other choice, which is, let me pull it up here. Here we go. Umir freeze. Freeze up to 2 Signies on your opponent's field. Your opponent discards a card. You need to note that freezing on your main phase is about 1,000 times worse than freezing on your opponent's phase, for what it's worth. But at the cost of 0 and freezing 2 will really stem some bleeding. Again, freezing 2 is sort of way better than freezing 1. It's not even close. And making the opponent discard a card as well is pretty good. Umir freeze is probably not great in your Towel Aught decks if you're using either of them center. However, if you're going mono blue and you're looking for a freeze build, this is an option. I think it's a solid option too. So I would rank this as playable. Looking at Umir's level 2s here, we've got Umir down. It is a level 2. It has a grow cost of 1. Its enter abilities are down, target Signy on your opponent's field, and you can pay blue and anything, so 2 enter, down, target Signy on your opponent's field. So basically, you can either pay 1 and down or 3 and down 2 things on your opponent's field. It's got the attack phase timing. It is good. I would use this in any mid-range deck that I was trying to just slow the opponent down and get myself a little bit ahead. You actually use this similar to this. Musica has sort of the same thing here, and you actively use that. So this is a good one. The only downside to this is it has a blue cost, which means that it's not just a colorless assist for you like another version of Umir is, Umir Clear. So that you need to make into consideration, but I would put this down as playable. So far we have put nothing down as stable. Umir Clear, it has a level 2, a grow cost of absolutely nothing. You get to discard your hand. Actually, you discard your hand, draw cards equal number to that, +1. So inevitably, you are getting rid of the worst cards in your hands and getting an extra card for your trouble. Your opponent discards their hand and draws the amount equal to that, but -1, so they lose 1 overall. You also have the enter ability of freeze target Lrig on your opponent's field. That needs to be emphasized. Lrig. You so rarely have access to freezing Lrigs. And freezing the Lrig can be very strong. It can basically win you the game in some cases when you're in racing situations. Umir Clear is deceivingly strong. I'm not going to say staple because it's playable, but what it really does most of the time is wreck the hands that your opponent is basically sorting, like, okay, I've got this situation, I've got 2 guards in hand, and I've got my level 3, so I'm ready for my late game, and then you're like, have some random cards, and also 1 less. It has just single-handedly won me games in the early meta from just that randomness applied to it. I would not underestimate that. Plus, ditching all your worst cards, and by the way, you're the one in control of this effect, right? You are the one who's like, all right, it's time to pull the trigger here. I've got 4 cards and none of them are good. Get me 5 cards and let me find the answer. This is great in mid-range decks. So I put it down as playable. Again, it's not a staple, right? It's nothing that you care so crazy about. But if I was to be playing I probably would be playing Umir Clear. Umir Shatter. Here we go. More freeze shenanigans. Level 2, grow cost 0, main phase attack timing. Main phase timing. It's vanishing 2 frozen Signy on your opponent's field. Here's the fun thing that you can do with it. You can do Ymir Freeze, right? Freeze up to 2 Signies, it costs 0, and then immediately go to Ymir Shatter and blow them up. For free, mind you. 0, 0. That's the combo. It's a free removal. If you're looking at having Towel as your center and you're going that mono red aggro lane, then this probably is the way that you want to go down. That being said, still playable. Now, where does it really shine? Mono blue freeze, baby! That's where you want to play this type of card. So if you're going to break a team and you're going to go for a mono blue freeze shenanigans memes, this card is definitely something you want to consider for it. And then I think it's very playable in that. So, playable. Then let's talk about At Charge. It comes in as a level 1. It's got a glow, they got me saying it, grow, 0. Enter Charge 2. It's your bread and butter of your green stuffs. So I'm going to go ahead and say staple. I should have probably said for Ymir Draw, staple. If you're looking to play the Ancient Surprise deck, I don't think you could get better than a At Charge and then get yourself an Enter Charge. It literally is just the best thing that you can be doing with green at level 1, in my opinion. The other level 1, At Forte, vanishes target Signy on your opponent's field with 7,000 or more. It's not that great. I mean, you basically use it on level 2s, really, is what it is. You're not sandbagging your grow on your level 1s so hard that you'll be doing it on turn 3. It's probably, like, once you compare it to At Charge, you don't want to give this you just don't want to give this playable. So I'm going to go ahead and say not playable. Sorry, At. At Reminder lets you level 2, grow cost 0, has the main phase timing, vanish target Signy on your opponent's field, and its other enter ability is vanish. Put a target Signy on your opponent's field that shares a class with a Signy on your field into its enter zone, and then if you do, you enter charge 1. If you somehow manage to pull that second ability off, At Reminder, utterly fantastic, almost broken. It's almost never going to happen. There's a lot of different Signy types, guys, Signy classes. It's just not realistic that it's going to happen, so I'm going to go ahead and say unplayable. It doesn't have the attack phase timing like I'd want for my level 2. You can hear my dog happily squeaking in the background. So just unplayable. At Discovery, the next time you take damage this turn, its grow cost, by the way, 2. It's attack phasing as well as main phase. The next time you take damage this turn, instead, you do not take that damage, and its other enter ability, put 3 Signy that share different classes from your enter zone to their trash, vanish target Signy on your opponent's field with 10,000 or more. I'm gonna burst everyone's bubble here again and say unplayable. It is fine that it prevents a damage, but I'm really, in my assists, looking to prevent a damage for 1 enter, not 2. 2 is a little overcosted. The other thing realistically reads 3 enter in order to vanish something 10,000 or more, and that's basically just level 3s and more. It's going to be tough to pull that off, and 3 enter for that ability is overcosted. So unplayable is what I'd say. At Repair, it is a level 2. It has attack phase and main phase timing. Its grow cost is 3. Shuffle 7 target Signy with different classes and without guard from your trash into your deck. If you do, you can add the top card from your deck to the Life Cloth. That costs an extra 7. So, it goes into it's from the trash into the deck. Excuse me, read it wrong. It's okay. That card is okay. It's only good when you're playing against aggro, really. But it's just so mediocre. Let's go with playable on this because you don't really have very many other options with At. But At is definitely a weakness to the Ancient Surprise deck. All right, moving right along. Let's get ourselves into Ange level 1. It's got the main phase timing. It's got the grow cost of 0. Return target level 2 or less Signy from your opponent's field to the hand. So it's pretty good removal. Cost 0. It's white. Yeah, it's good. Playable. Very playable. I think there's one that's better, if I remember my Ange correctly, which is Ange level 1. Main phase timing. It's another assist. Grow cost is 0. You can, when it enters, you can pay 1, and you can put target Signy from your opponent's field with 10,000 or less into its owner's trash. I think they're both playable. I wouldn't consider one necessarily better than the other. You can either have a lower to the ground deck where you're not paying any enter for the lane opening removal, or you can have one where you're depriving them of some amount of enter at the cost of using your own enter. Both are playable. Moving right along to its level 2s, we've got Ange level 2, and its main phase timing. It's got the grow cost of 2. Put target level 2 or less Signy on your opponent's field to the trash. Return a Signy from the opponent's field to the owner's hand. That is what I would probably say if you're running Sandbaka staple. It is so good for 2 cost, even though, yes, it's on the main phase, and don't get me wrong, you might want something to do on the attack phase. The ability to open up 2 lanes, right, for just 2 enter is absolutely nuts. If you're getting use out of that aggression and opening those lanes, I absolutely would be running that one. It's other level 2s, and it's hard to say this on a podcast, but it's assist Ange level 2 with an asterisk. Same thing over here, it's just 2. This one has the attack phase and the main phase timing. Its grow cost is 0. You can put a virtual card from your hand to the field so you can surprise them with something. You can also pay 2 enter and put a virtual Signy from your hand to the field. The enter effects don't enter on these types of things. So, is it good to pay upwards to 2 enter to ambush and lane fill? I think the answer is no. It's probably not that great to do that. I'm going to get this one a trash rating. You don't want to do it. It's just, you'd rather remove something on their end instead than just to be like, oh, hold up, I've got something in my hand, I can lane fill. And that's where this one comes into play. Level 2, grow cost 2, has the attack phase and main phase timing. You can return target Signy from your opponent's field to their hand, and you can use a black enter and then add a black Signy from your trash to your hand. Generally speaking, since you are probably playing Toko, if you're using this assist, this becomes much better. I would not besmirch anyone from using this one or the other one for their level 2 for Ange. I would say staple. If you're running the Sandbaka deck, then this is going to be probably where you want to be at. You're going to be paying 2 enter in order to opening a lane, as well as doing some defense, and getting yourself a black Signy. And as we talk about the black Signy, there's one specifically that makes the virtual deck tick, and you will want to be getting that card out of your graveyard. Let's talk about Toko. Toko. Let me see if I can get it in the window. There we go. Toko, level 1, target Signy on your opponent's field gets negative 8,000 until end of turn. So it's a black, grow cost 0, main phase, timing, removal spell. Opens up a lane. It's pretty good. It's probably where you want to be at. The other assist lets you look at the top 3 cards of your deck and add 2 virtual Signy from your trash to your hand. Sorry, you're milling 3, and then you are putting 2 Signy from the trash to your hand. It is good. The only problem with Toko assist is there's also basically something very similar with the Lrigs that we'll get to. So as such, Toko on its own as an assist is good. However, on the team, it's not so good because you've got Liz to basically do all your drawing cards for you. So you probably don't want this one. Playable, probably not your favorite. I would go with the Toko level 1 here. That does some kind of removal. And then your Toko level 2s are going to be a Toko level 2, grow cost 2, main phase timing. Vanish up to 2 Signy on your opponent's field. Again, opening up 2 lanes is huge. So it's very playable. I wouldn't necessarily say staple because there's this one as well, and I believe this one is better. It is the grow cost of 1. Target Signy on your opponent's field gets negative 12,000 till end of turn, and you can pay a white enter, and you can add a white Signy from your trash to your hand. It's basically the opposite of Ange, and it's got the attack phase timing. I think this one's probably better if you're doing a more Ange-based deck because you're kind of probably needing a little bit more resources to grind. But again, I think both level 2s are pretty grand. You also have a level 2 here. The grow cost is 4, and it's got attack phase and main phase timing. Its enter ability is put target virtual Signy from your trash to the field. I don't think ambushing is very good in this deck or in this game in general. I'd say this one is definitely a trash. You don't want it. It's unplayable. The last ones to go over here are going to be Liz level 1, grow cost of 0. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck, reveal up to 2 white virtual Signy from them, and add them to your hand, then put the rest on a random order. Hey, and guess what? It's other level 1. Let me find it real quick. It does the exact same thing, but for black virtual Signy. It depends on what deck are you running. Are you running Ange? Then play this one. If you're running Toko, probably play this one. I have also played this one in Ange because there's, again, a very specific black virtual Signy that is very important to make the deck function. It has killer artwork too. So I think this one is probably the better one. They're both playable. Your assist level 2s are this one with the grow cost of 4, has the main phase and attack phase timing. The enter is look at the top 5 cards of your deck, put 2 virtual Signy among them into the field, put the rest on the bottom in any order. Again, I don't think ambushing is very good in this game. It's not like you can ambush in Magic and then go, oh, you attacked into it, I block and I kill your Signy. No, you're just negating an attack. And the better way to negate an attack is with a removal. So this is not very good. Your other level 2 here, assist, is going to be with the grow cost of 2. It has the main phase and attack phase timing. You can return target Signy on your opponent's field to their hand, and you can pay 2 and add a Signy with guard from your trash to your hand. This one, 1,000 times better. It gives you the ability to win the race by getting some more guards and sort of just changing that combat math for the life cloth, as well as opening up a lane on your opponent's turn, so that's defensive, and then offensive because it lets you attack through it. This one, much better. Would call it very playable. Over here, we've got the level 2. It has the grow cost of 3, only the main phase timing. Target Sandbaka Lrig on your field gains auto once a turn. When this Lrig attacks, you can up it until end of turn. So for 3 enter, you basically go ahead and get an extra attack on your Lrig. Here's the deal. Why would you pay that when you can pay 2 and open up a Signy lane and get a Life Crush, rather than pay 3 and basically also get a Life Crush? And less options. This one is the very bottom of playable, but it's probably closer to not playable than playable. And we've talked about all of the assist Lrigs. Let's go ahead and bring up pieces now. There's not a lot to choose from here, so it's going to be just a quick last part of our video. But we'll talk about all of these pieces, and with these pieces, you're probably going to have to talk about them with team context, because a lot of them have the use condition Ancient Surprise. Let's talk about Harmonic Call in the first place. Harmonic Call, look at the top 8 cards of your deck. Put 1 level 1 Signy, 1 level 2 Signy, 1 level 3 Signy among them into your field. Put the rest on the bottom in a random order. Then a target level 1 Signy gains Assassin. Target level 2 Signy gains Double Crush. A target level 3 Signy gains Lancer. Here's the deal. This card is a game ender. You will end every game you play it, and you will probably win every game you play it. The issue is, it costs 8 enter. That's so much. But you are potentially playing an at deck that has the ability to enter charge pretty well, and if you are going late game, it is incredible. The only issue is Ancient Echo also exists for the team and the set, right? And it's not even a team thing here. I should explain. The use condition for this one is an Lrig, a blue Lrig, and a red Lrig, a blue Lrig, and a green Lrig. So if you have a team with those colors, I guess you could break teams to try to do something that's not Ancient. Surprise! You can vanish target Signy on your opponent's field with power 10,000 or less, draw 2 cards, and all these Signy on your field get plus 3,000 power till end of turn. And it only costs 2 to do this one. Now the real answer is, do you find that you are what type of deck do you find yourself on? Because Future Code also exists that this deck can do, and it costs 4 and does some other stuff. I don't want to get too far into it, but they all have levels of how much do you want to pay and how big of an effect do you want. They're all playable is the answer, but they're all playable for different reasons. If you're going low to the field, you're probably going to want to play Ancient Echo. If you're using a lot of your enter, perhaps you're doing Lancelot stuff, perhaps you're doing Hera stuff, perhaps you're spending that enter to gain extra effects, then you're probably going to want a smaller amount of enter. If you have just bigger dudes that are on the field, or like on play abilities that don't cost enter, and you have a lot of enter charge happening in your deck, then you might consider playing Harmonic Call instead. Both are playable. Let's talk about Future Code because now we're in it. Future Code costs 4. The user condition is that you have a green Lrig. Up to 2 Signy on your field with power 15,000 or more gain Lancer till end of turn. And you know that Lancer crushes Lifecloth if you vanish over things. This only matters if you're playing a big green deck, which at sometimes plays. You probably need your at center in order for this to be any good. I'm going to put this one down less on, it's less playable and probably more trash. I would choose between Ancient Echo and Harmonic Call. I like min-maxing here, so you're either going small or you're going huge, and I think you got to make that choice when you're deck building. Let's talk about the other options that you can do here for Sandbaka. Sandbaka has a Sambra Carnival. If it's a Sandbaka team, put target Signy on your opponent's field to its owner's trash, return target Signy from your opponent's field to its hand, add a virtual Signy from your trash to your hand, all for the cost of 5. 5 is probably too much for this. 4 is probably the right number. 5 to open up 2 lanes, even though they are the non-enter ways of removal, and getting yourself a virtual Signy from your trash to your hand is not terrible. I mean, you're basically looking at 2 enter for the first effect, 2 enter for the second effect, 1 enter for the third effect. So it's a fine cost. It's playable. However, if you're playing this team, you might want to play this one instead. The user condition is that you have a white and a black Lrig on your field. It only costs 2 Super Celestia Saber. Add up to 1 white Signy, 1 black Signy, and here's the important part, 1 colorless Signy from your trash to your hand. There's very few ways to recur guards. And while white has the ability to recur guards, having access to it from your piece is pretty good. I think that this card is probably not your main piece, but is a very reliable side piece. If you can play it, I would say it's playable. It does what a lot of the other side pieces do, which is basically draw you a card or draw you 2 cards. But this one draws you 2 cards and a guard. So you can't use it right away, but it'll help you fix your hand a little later down the line. Counter Alchemy. Costs 2. It has the attack phase timing. We got one with the attack phase timing. The only user condition is that you have a white Lrig on your field. Until the end of your turn, target Signy on your opponent's field loses Assassin, Lancer, and Double Crush and cannot gain those abilities. This is trash. You're never like counting on them to be like, aha, I got you. I have an Assassin, Lancer, Double Crush. I mean, even if they Harmonic Call and you do this, they still have 2 other Signys with the abilities. So this is terrible. I would not play this. I would just play anything that is removal, and you deal with those creature or those Signy. So no, this is a bad card. Don't use it. Don't get tricked. I want to leave this one for last. Assault Cerberus. Look at your opponent's hand. It costs 0 enter, by the way. It has the main phase timing. Look at your opponent's hand. Choose a card without guard, and the opponent discards it. If you really just want to meme someone and ruin their day by wrecking one key piece card in their hand, yeah, this is the way to do it. I've had games where I've won with this piece, and I've had games where I've lost. Definitely lost because I've had this piece. It's trash. If you're playing discard, you probably should be playing blue discard effects. This does not make or break any deck. It's a fine piece to have if you don't have an extra piece, but there are better just side pieces that are better, just like Chime of the Blessed Key will do more for you on the average. Chime of the Blessed Key, it costs 0, draw 3 cards, discard 2 cards. I call this one, and here you guys go. This is the first time I've said it this entire set review so far. Staple! Staple! This is the only staple in the set so far. The only one. Chime of the Blessed Key can be used by any deck, has a relevant effect for any deck, sometimes has a relevant effect that's the discard getting stuff in your graveyard, man. This card is the benchmark for if you want to have a second piece and you do not know what to do past your team piece or your main piece, and you just need to throw something extra in there, you can never go wrong with the Chime of the Blessed Key. It is by far the most staple, borderline, non-exciting workhorse that you can throw into a deck. Can it be outranked by other pieces? Absolutely it can be. But it can never be deranked by anything else because its effect is so just normal and okay that it's always good. The key with this one, by the way, is that you play it on like turn 0, turn 1, and you fix your hand if you don't have your level 1s. You can do the same for a level 2 on turn 2 and a level 3 on turn 3. So this is the power of the card. It is versatile, even though it's not great. And with that, guys, I'm leaving on a good note because we have finished the assists, the Lrigs, and the pieces that you could be playing from set 0-0. Next time, we'll start talking about some